kurz darauf angekommen. Ja, your fans, bro.
Raven, the flush is out, going to give a reset. Douglas gets over his first blood. Skewon now looking for another jumper, has no choice, but he can't get the kill. Out of range.
Rechts, by the way. Rechts. Flash out. I will die.
Yeah, get this down, moving, we fight 2 seconds. Guys, wait,
BDSA, they've taken a bit from the edge of this fight, but the equalizer says no. Janax flies in, and this guy knows he's better.
BDSA put themselves in the driver's seat with a dominant Game 1 against Vitality.Bee. Welcome back to EMEA Master Finals Summer 2024. I'm Jeannie, this is Dagda, and we're joined with Sola. Welcome.
Hello. Nice
Lovely
to be here.
have you.
Amazing to be here.
Let's talk about this Game 1 and how you're feeling about this here, being in a studio, being in an arena, not even a studio, with the fans present in Germany, having BDSA take that first game. What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty convincing fashion from BDSA. Being here, of course, is amazing, I think, for the players just as much as for us. I'm not too sure how bothered they are. We have some pretty seasoned veterans on the stage, at least some of them. So it's going to be interesting to see if the nerves will eventually get to them. I feel like in the first game, it was more of an actually in-game issue than nerves or anything like that.
Well, we still have a couple more games to go before we can decide that. But I want to start off with the draft discussion particularly, because when we came into this, we said Vitality as well as BDSA, both of these teams are comfortable picking out some crazy, funky stuff, but it wasn't necessarily exactly what we got to see.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the stuff that we kind of expected, but not in the manner we expected it, right? We talked about the Rel being very high priority. We got to see that come through from Stend. And we wanted to see something for Jayek where he was able to go, hey, I can try and take some control in that mid lane and try and push back. And I really liked the Renekton counter pick to say, hey, I can now go against this Yone. I think it was really smart, clearly something they had in their back pocket, but it felt like they didn't really know how to operate even when they had these counter picks. I think that's where it really started to fall apart.
Yeah, and I also feel like the comp from Vitality.Bee falls apart really quickly once you are not in the driver's seat anymore. You really need to set up the vision so Rel gets flanks. Renekton as well needs to kind of go in from the side. And we saw that after the second and third fight, they just basically got mowed down every time they tried to enter anything. So just a couple of early game mistakes that made the entire draft unplayable, basically. I wouldn't write it off as draft or anything like that. As you said, I think it was mainly like execution, especially in the early game.
Yeah, and even on the opposite side, though, we see very standard, right? Kadui going back towards his Jhin. You get the early rumble for Janax, who was a beast on it in these fights as well. So it felt like you kind of got comfort for BDSA, whereas it was a bit more experimental for Vitality.Bee. And unfortunately, when we got to these early fights, it did fall apart. And it felt like they tried to come in with an early game plan of, hey, we want to try and contest on bot side, fight the early skirmishes that we were saying BDS Academy wants to go for. But the fact that you've only got Renekton teleporting back in now gives a ton of control to BDSA in this fight. They're able to outnumber them. And this was where it started to go from bad, but it only kind of got worse from there.
Yeah, Vitality.Bee was really very much trying to put themselves in the driver's seat, and also something we heard from Douglas earlier in the interview was we have been experimenting. We've had that prep phase. We are looking at changing up the draft, and that's what we got from them. But it felt like necessarily this first game wasn't the mark that they wanted to hit, because these fights kept on happening. It wasn't just the bot lane, it wasn't just getting picks, it was also fighting for objectives that didn't really go in their favor. Yeah,
I think BDSA went for a pretty skill check heavy comp where they just said, okay, we are better than you, so we will just pick the Yone, we will pick the Viego. Champs that are pretty volatile, but I think this Herald fight shows it pretty nicely how well they execute this fight, zoning the MF completely, MF ultimate basically hitting nothing of value, and then we have the free flank from Rika coming in with the TP. Kassan's actually doing quite a lot of work, but in general, Vitality.Bee needs really quick, explosive fights, hitting Rel ult on 3 targets, MF ult needs to one-shot something, and it just didn't happen once this game, and it made it really, really hard to just keep playing the game. After the Yone got 2 items, he could just do whatever he wants. Same for the Viego, just really hard to play in general.
Yeah, especially as you were saying, once you fall behind, you don't get that wombo combo access anymore, like the Lily into the MF, and then you've got like these big bruiser, tanky frontliners who can keep control, but it just completely slipped away. And to give them their due, it felt like when we kind of got to the mid portion of the game that they were still trying to find ways to fight back. Like they were matching the 3v3 pressure that was coming through from BDSA. They were trying to find moments on sides, and they did catch them out sometimes, but too consistently we're seeing BDS Academy find these great plays where, you know, catching Naknako out on a side lane after they've tried to overforce in the mid lane, and it just kept finding these 1 or 2 hits that just dismantled Vitality.Bee game plan.
To be completely fair to Vitality.Bee, we've seen a couple of fights as well in this mid-game that kind of went more their way or where they're able to get equal trades. So it felt like they, to an extent, were trying to pull it back, but at the end of the day, BDS Academy had that calculated aggression that we really hammered home at the start of today and said that both of these teams need to be able to get into, and they perfected it this time around. But also a player that we highlighted a lot here was Paris, and he was highlighted in this game particularly with those engages too.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really, really good. I think not much to say. Good pick into the rail. He just did what he was supposed to do. Denied the MF as well completely. So just very solid pick overall. In general, there's two options to play the game right now as a support. Either you just go for one of the prio picks like the Rel, Leona, or you go for something like Alistar, Poppy to just deny what the enemy is trying to do. And I think BDSA is just insanely good at applying those counter picks, but only in specific roles where it can completely break apart the enemy team comp. And I think the Alistar did that perfectly in this game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Paris is so good when he finds those moments, and it feels a bit bad to talk about Paris without Skewmont, because both them 19 when it came to the kills and assists over the course of that game, 100% kill participation on both sides. But I do think that just for the fact that you have so much control with the Alistar in the team fights, the counter pick in lane as well, being able to shut down that Rel, it gave so much control to BDSA. And even in that very first skirmish that we had at 3 minutes 30 in that bot side river, just setting up that little snipe coming through from Gadui just around the side as well. It was beautiful stuff. And I'm very excited to see Paris as he continues to grow, not only in this series, but just as a player. This guy has been so good for so long. He was still one of the most talked about players coming out of last EMEA Masters, and now we get to see him on the main stage popping off as well.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we've highlighted time and time again is the importance of getting some of these counter picks, so the importance of getting that red side selection. Vitality had that red side coming into that first game, and we said that this could be a potential win condition. You can set your top laner up for success, you could help your bot lane out, but it felt like they weren't necessarily able to capitalize off of it, and they picked it again. So the changes here in draft that you would like to see, what would they be?
Honestly, I actually don't want to see a huge amount of changes. I think Solo was already saying, it wasn't really a draft diff for me. I think they came in with cool things that they could have operated on, but I think the operation was faulty. They didn't really get the setup that they wanted. They wanted to try and contest for early skirmishes with like big level 6 wombos, having some nice skirmishing power with the Renekton from the mid lane, but they just never really got that to work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think also them choosing red side again shows that they are confident with the plan they went in, and especially in a best of 5, the second game is where you can try to do things right with the same strategy as you did. If it doesn't work again, if they get stomped like this again, then you need to change something up, take a bit more risk, because even though the draft was overall completely solid, it was more on the conservative side, I would say. Like, you have the beefy mid lane, tanky top lane, really clear way to play the game, but also pretty shallow in the way you are able to play the map, which makes it really easy for BDSA to find ways to disable your comp. But for game 2, I'm totally happy if we see a really similar draft and just a better execution.
That's also the beauty of when you're looking at these best of series, especially with a best of 5, you have a chance to try things twice and then make the adaptations as you go ahead. But I think as well, BDS Academy have now seen what Vitality is comfortable playing. They know they're going to go for these standard picks, quote unquote. And as a result, they also on their end could have preparations or maybe something up their sleeve.
Yeah, I think, well, for BDSA, they haven't had to show their hand, right? It was
Absolutely.
like, no one's surprised Reeker's gone for Yone. No one's surprised we have a Rumble in the top point. Oh my God, a Jhin? It's like, these are all things basically we're like, yeah, you're coming in with this. So I think this was a bit of an experimental game plan for a lot of Vitality.Bee being, hey, can we get something funky in the mid lane to go against the Yone? Can we have some answers to these? And I don't think necessarily that the game plan failed itself. I think it was just I think the game plan failed versus the actual, like, the thought process coming into the series. So I wouldn't, as we say, be surprised if we get anything massively different. Maybe it's not Renekton. Maybe you try and find a little bit more pressure, like level 1, level 2 around mid lane, so that then you can find those advantages. You're not getting pushed out, so you have to reset level 3 for the Renekton. Like, there are little things that you can do differently, but I think it'll be a similar story.
Well, we're going to find out shortly as we're ready to head into the second game of the series. So let's head over to our casters. We have Hysterics, Aragon, as well as Brox already. So guys, take it away.
Yeah, Broxer got a bit of a hype intro there. Oh my God.
Mine?
Yeah, Aragon.
Hysterics. But Broxah!
I'll take it.
Holy moly! That's right. Well, again, prodigies that have come out of the same system, again, representing the region. It's nice to have you alongside me because after game one, I feel like our BDSA expectations have been hit, where we're now putting the edge back on Vitality is what they can bring out on this red side draft once again.
Yeah, and I think the disc broke it down really well here because ultimately they didn't have trouble due to the draft. In fact, they actually got matchups they were comfortable with counterpicking in a lot of these roles.
Yeah.
They need to step it up in game, but at the same time they chose red again, which tells us they must have some interesting counterpicks coming up.
One small thing is maybe a shift for Douglas onto like some power pumps to have something a bit more agency. I was most convinced with Vitality.Bee when he was stuff on stuff like Volley Bear, you know, which can make plays early because he'd pair up with Stand and find picks. But I feel like they are going to run back the same draft.
Well, Malkai's gone. I mean, we're getting rid of Nako's top lane. Varus, again, as a priority. Double AD carry. The Rumble this time, though, is the adaptation, not giving that one over to Genax.
Yeah, I just think the champ's so hard to counter, and their best answer was Cassante into it, which completely concedes lane, and then it already had a huge impact on grub fights with that ultimate. You saw a 202 Genax coming down to the grub fight, and you just had to concede it.
Question is whether now they're going to look into something like the Rel that has been such a core pick, such a huge playmaker for Paris early in this tournament. And while his Alistar was also really incredible, Stint was a good Rel too, managed to find a lot of those openings, so denying it and getting the prior pick makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about what we wanted to see for Douglas. I mean, this is something through the tournament, and even if you cast your mind back when Vitality were in the LEC, Douglas started picking this up when the AP junglers were popular, or even less so. He was one of the few people playing it.
But his style has been a little bit different here for Vitality.Bee. Most recently, we've seen him playing utility champions with engage, and it's mostly been Skumund going to Brand, the Siren, the Leah route. But here, I think Vitality.Bee, they just want to change it up. They want to have more pressure, more threats, and I'm curious to see how the Brand is going to pan out.
Alistair Braum into Rel, pretty standard, works well with the Brand. And Brand, to me, has a little bit more early game agency, a little bit more skirmishing power.
Yeah.
So nice to see picked up with Douglas, AoE there. A small denial as well with the Rel pairing. Now, MF is still up and available if you want to pick that in with the Rel combo that we saw last game. But seeing how it went, maybe they don't. Oh, there it is.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I mean, this is a flex as well, gents, but we know that Skumond actually popped off on this in the quarterfinals, I believe, and it was such a big power pick in previous patches. A lot of people have walked away from it, but Skumond still favors it, despite other people giving it a miss.
Yeah, I think now you could blind pick top, you could do Cassandra, you could pick AD mid, you have a few different options. You could pick Jhin here if you want to. There's so many different things you can go down. What do you think, Broxah?
I was about to say, I want to see Yone or a marksman, just anything. AD send out mid. The Tristana in particular is great because she's very strong, she has a lot of pressure, and ultimately the Talia is so good into the likes of Alistar. Not only do you have lockdown from Rel that makes it easy for you to land your W, but the moment you press E on the 4, the rocks are all over, it's going to be much harder for Alistar to engage and do his thing. So far, great draft from BDSA.
Corki Trist. I thought maybe it would be Lucian. Good matchup in the mid game, in the mid lane rather, but it's going to be the Corki, incredibly powerful champion right now. Imagine you're setting up for a counter pick for Nako on R5. You're going to blind pick that AD carry. And I'm looking at champions like Jhin. I absolutely love Jhin. I'm a bit of a Jhin salesman. I love the snipes from the W onto Brand passive and the AoE champions they have in the current meta. I think it sets up so many picks so well.
Well, there's many different directions that both teams could really be looking for here. I think for Vitality.Bee in particular, they are expected to last pick top this time around. Drop another top man. Make sure that Genax is not going to be able to take over the game the way he did on the Rumble. And AD carry, there's still a couple of champions open, but may have to dive a little deeper in the pool to find a decent one.
Immediately, the champions that I'm looking at with these bans, Renekton could be a target ban, but it also sets up for champions like Camille. You have Cassante rising priority now. I think you do need another frontline to work with that Brand, another frontline for the AD carries that are going to come through as well, and TF ban sets that up very well, but it feels a bit obvious. Like, you're telling them to pick Cassante, and then we have a big answer in something like the Mordekaiser for BDSA. So I do think BDSA are probably just going to end up getting it with a blind pick AD carry here for Vitality.Bee.
What do you think they're going to go for? What are we looking at? He's played Nila, he's played Seraphine.
Yeah.
Another surprise, perhaps?
I think the outrange could be great, but I'd rather have double AD carry with an AP jungle, leave Brand sole AP, so no Seraphine.
So you talked about Jhin already, as you mentioned, as the pairing, as Yasuo actually banned away as well.
Ooh, Yasuo, Alistair. They thought they would go down that route. Yoppa does play everything.
He does. He plays anything and everything. I mean, we've talked it to death. Seraphine an option? I'm not sure.
There it is.
Wow, that
I mean, you
timing,
said it. Why'd you like
uncanny.
it?
Now, they really need 80 damage.
Yes, Roxanne, why do you like it? Now they really need 80 damage. Let's avoid the question.
I didn't say it was good. It can be.
There's
but-
a reason I was like, I think they need AD here, man. You know, if they go Seraphine and now they need AD champion top lane, but you know, it is Nako. He does have a bunch of different picks. So what AD champion do you have into the Cassante blind, which they set up for with that TF ban, as well as Renekton ban on the other side? I think Camille could be okay, although that's not fantastic. Vayne top, he's a man of very many AD carries top lane. I hate that matchup, actually. That's really bad. Yeah, that's a good... I think it's pretty hard to play against the AoE, though, right? On the other side.
Well, that's the thing, right? It feels like no matter what you go for, it's not going to be relatively difficult to team fight here, but Nako known for his creative champion pool. Wouldn't be surprised to see the likes of a Smolder or any marksman. Really.
Oh my god! This is Vitality.Bee through and through. This is why we're hyped for this thing, because their drafts can be absolutely psychotic, and I mean that in a great way. This is one of those drafts. How would you like to start on this one?
That top lane matchup. Okay, so the thing is, the problem with picking carries in top lane is lane swaps are still kind of a thing, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of lane swap to get away from the Vayne matchup, because that can be incredibly difficult to deal with. The question is if Vitality.Bee want to commit to that, if they practice that. That might take up the entire early game. If not, this matchup is horrendous, and then Nako has free reign of the lane.
This is bringing back memories. Dylan, we gotta go Vayne just in the top lane this time around. I'm looking forward to seeing what Caps Jr. has to offer here.
Oh my god.
This could be a very, very great game to watch.
And this is why Vitality.Bee, the red side, was talked about as it is probably going to be picked all series. We know, again, in quarters, semis, it was their priority. For that reason, that they can play around with these drafts. And I love the diversity. It's just a question of getting onto the Rift. Is it going to be enough? And that can be a generic statement, but here it means a lot after what we saw in Game 1 with BDSA wiping the floors in multiple lanes.
And I think the big thing is the laners simply have to play better. They were getting completely outclassed in the early game, and I think just stepping up in terms of micro and laning phase is going to do massive for them.
We're both fighting for their first championship. I mean, again, there are so many firsts coming through. Vitality.Bee as the underdogs. And after Game 1, it is so obvious that BDSA have come in primed and ready. The first seed of the LFL versus the third. There was a lot of fighting in Game 1, and here in Munich live. Let's hope it pops off again.
All right, is it going to be a lane swap? Seraphine already heading up top side. Yoppa might just be to contest vision and place a ward up top side, but I do think there is real potential. That ward there, going to be very valuable in the lane phases if it is a standard lane, because bushes are so incredibly valuable in these melee versus range matchups. You want to auto-attack them, dip into vision, and make sure you maintain control of these bushes.
Stend in trouble. BDSA are here waiting for him as well. This is a trap. He's caught. They haven't even ordered to execute 66 yet as Stend flashes away.
Is Rika going to swap with Jenax so that they don't have the melee versus range and play Cassante mid? Is that a thing? I think they were thinking about it. Rika was sitting there the entire time, but they're going to swap back, and it's not going to go through. Wow, that would have been a really cool adaptation.
We're still able to see 2 wards placed here from both sides, ensuring that their top laners are able to, play safely, and especially for the Cassandra here, who's going to be on the defensive side, having some vision and knowing what Vayne is up to when she enters those bushes is so, so important. Right now, slightly different matchups to say the least, but ultimately last time the issue for Vitality.Bee was the over-aggression. Do they have a stop button? Can they play more patiently? Well, Nako, he certainly shouldn't. This is just foot in the gas pedal and only one way forward versus Cassandra, but ultimately, we want to see smart fights.
And you can already see Skumon has identified that top lane might need some help. He's going to be pathing up topside to the perma pushing Vayne. What happens is Vayne's just going to get prior up topside, continuously queue forward and auto-attack Jenax on this Cassante and get a bunch of chip damage. Now, maybe they can set up onto the Vayne.
Before we get annoyed at top as well, I just quickly want to, and I won't have time during this series, I want to talk a little bit about, oh, help Aragon, oh dear Lord. It feels like that's what the top matchup will be, but also we need to quickly acknowledge Bob because again, Kadui, Yoppa coming into this finals, it's a big moment for them, and I know you personally, Aragon, played with one of these legends.
Yeah, so Yoppa, He's a very good player, surprisingly enough. I played with him about 3 years ago. I can't remember the exact year, but back then, even then, he was like 17, and he was so good in lane phase. I don't remember a single game where he lost us the game.
Yep.
If we ever lost on that team, it was because I was inting or someone else on the team was inting.
Classic.
They would win lane every single time, and very often, the winning lane in EMEA Masters.
It's important to acknowledge, especially since, again, on the Seraphine here, it feels like a bit of a role player. Kadui recently had felt like a bit of a role player with his Jins, his Ashes, that we've seen come through the EMEA Masters tournament. Both had their role here, and again, when you played with Aragon, I think it's good to highlight here. No offense, Aragon. Brox up, top side is annoying, but we need to go back to jungle because Douglas, again, as he goes through his full clear, what does he have to play with? What does Skumont have to play with here as well, especially when top is so overpushed?
Well, I think in this particular case, as the jungler with Cassandra playing up against Vayne, you know there's a chance the enemy could be looking for an early play around top, could be looking for a dive, so Skumont naturally passed towards that lane. Douglas was freedom to do whatever he wants, goes to the other side of the map, and the question here is whether Skumont could be tempted to look for a play top himself.
Yeah, Ward in lane already going to spot out Talia if he comes. And I do think if Nako does get ganked on this Vayne, he can just press Ghost and walk away. It's going to be a very easy way to walk out because you're very dependent on landing that W for Skumont. So ooh.
Hang on. Jayak fluxes away. Skumont's timing. That's a perfect jungler, if I may say so, to Broxer.
This was a great start for the side of BDSA once again. Riga slightly over-aggressive, but it was a bait all along with Skumont coming in. Now both junglers place the ward on the enemy Raptors and we'll know what the other one is up to. We're going to be seeing both of them doing Raptors into Crocs and then recalling to have that very nice first base for themselves as well.
So I'm a really big fan of Paris and Skumont champion duo here. I think it's been a great draft for that because Rel Q and just Rel CC in general really sets up Talia spells. So if we do see any action, I do think it's going to be off the back of Paris and Skumont working together, walking through River and landing on CC onto a single target.
Paris and Skumont working together? Crazy.
Really? Yeah, but they're drafted for it, right?
Yeah,
so
they are.
It really makes sense.
Again, that's why we highlight this team. But for now, at least in the early game, let's just talk about what matters. Top lane is going as you expect. The range matchup, at least for Nako, working in his favor. As Stender's starting to move up here as well at the 5-minute mark. Spotted out by a deep ward from BDSA, gives them the information to know that Stender's being a little naughty.
A bit of an unfortunate position for the Alistar here. Good idea to look for the roam, but ultimately used his plant towards the river, didn't sweep, didn't spot the ward. And then now Paris going towards the top side, we'll have to see if he can be a little bit more sneaky, as we actually see an entire swap.
Yeah, I quite like the lane swap, because GenX had to recall anyway. He was permanently pummeled under tower by Nako, so they take that opportunity. They send GenX down bot side, and they swap up top a minute before the grubs. Very classic. Now, they're going to get pushed in top because they are first there. Yoppa doesn't have TP to catch the wave, so he might miss a couple minutes, but that is first move from BDSA onto grubs.
And again, grubs, we talk about being so important for BDSA. It's also a denial of a couple of minions. Now, Cannon will be there to slow down the push and at least slow down the denial from Yoppa, but classic BDSA, again, playing through this early game advantage as Stand and Yoppa come here to match.
Yeah, in the skirmish, does look like they're going to be conceding grubs here. Brand does Dragon fairly quickly, and he's on it, Douglas. Having a reset by Rika. Rika's being so annoying.
Well, a classic trade here for both of the junglers. One team takes the Drake, the other takes the grubs. And ultimately, I think while BDSA was smart at pulling the trigger on the lane swap to make sure they get the Void grubs, it was also a really good response from the side of Vitality.Bee, who quickly shifted their Vayne down spot. Seraphine and Alistar going top. And not only that, they get a Drake, they get a Scuttle. What more could you want?
Yeah, I think BDSA are really good at getting information. Whenever the enemy team's on an objective or doing something, they have someone scout down to see what the cross-map play is. Oh, Skumont, he pulls the trigger.
Weaver's wall is there. Douglas also has level 6, but the seismic shot was perfect. Skumont going to get out with his life, but Flash was burned from Douglas, despite the Hellfire advantage.
One thing that's worth noting is the lane swap was one thing, but the one thing we haven't touched on is, wow,
hang on, phosphorus bomb.
Aggressive. Before the lane swap happened, GenX was about 10 CS, 200 gold down. Now, after the lane swap, top is actually even. And it made a big, big difference with this top matchup.
And this is why in the current meta, picking really strong carries is actually not that ideal because of the constant lane swaps. You can just keep avoiding different matchups, but this mid lane is really rough.
Yeah, I'm sitting here just waiting for the all-in from Chayak. Remember, he burnt Flash before, so that maybe makes the tool a little bit harder. Reek, a good dodge away from the phosphorus bomb as well. As in topside. Whoa, the timing big, but wait, Genex has ulti versus the Vayne. It's the final hour, but Nuko has to flash away now. A couple of tumbles and turns, and Genex could be in danger too, but Nuko's run out of his ulti, and Genex threatens here in a matchup that we talk about being a bit one-sided.
A nice condemn away from the W on Cassante. Genex managing to find the flash though, and it's going to be a very vulnerable Vayne if Talia decides to head up there. Maybe with Paris' setup, that could be a regank. On the other hand though, flashless Dagless, I think it's going to be really hard to contest these grubs that's spawning in 2 minutes 30 time. A flashless Brand can be very vulnerable.
But Paris fully committed there, so he's in danger. Phosphorus gone first blood. Unfortunately over to Stan, but Vitality.Bee all the same with early damage.
And right there we saw Paris taking a page out of Vitality.Bee's book from game 1. See champion, kill champion mentality, and while it worked out for him for the most part in game 1, has to be a little bit more cautious. But again, like you mentioned, luckily for BDSA, the kill went over to the Alistar, so it doesn't matter too much. Also, 2 minutes still in the Void drops, they still have plenty of time to set up.
I think we're going to see some lane swaps coming in a minute's time. Sends Zeri up top side, maybe play for those plates.
I feel like we've been seeing lane swaps throughout the game. I mean, this is Zeri just sitting mid now, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why I prefer something like a Smolder, which I called out in draft, because Smolder can play weak side so much better. You can just send down an ultimate to clear the wave, they can't dive you suddenly, right? So lane swaps become a bit more difficult to play, but Vayne doesn't have much wave clear, so it's hard to pilot them. Regardless, so Nuko, you're kind of seeing that manifesting in the CS, like, equal.
Right now we have really, really good vision coverage on the top side from the side of BDSA. 3 control wards set up around the Baron.
But Paris, well, hang on, he's tagged up, but on the back end as he burns over, there's some good return damage, but no kill yet. Kadooey's on a charge, and like lightning, he falls through, and Sten walking away. Only just Kadooey damage on the back end side. A good sidestep from Dagless, walking forward, he survives. The turn almost there, Skumon burning, but in for the kill, in for a pound. Kadooey is baited and slammed into the ground.
Dagless with the movement, finding the stuns, dodging the seismic shove. Vitality come up huge in terms of the micro.
Incredible, incredible fighting and punish from Vitality.Bee. One single overstep from Paros turned into more and more mistakes, and now all of a sudden Vitality.Bee is in a great position and can get the snowball rolling.
And we're seeing picks onto Paris, no CC buffers like we're used to. He gets CC chain, CC knocked up, the burst comes through, the passive burns down onto Paris as well. And then it's just oversteps from Kadooey.
And right now, BDSA realize in just a moment that Dagless has no flash available, and I think the look on him here is really, really good. Most players would have walked directly into the W and got one shot. But this one sidestep secures 2 more kills for the team. What an absolute hero.
Stend is insane for that re-engage, but you can see Vitality feeling it, patting it back with his arms up. We're fighting again, and remember there was so much used before, but Paris, he jumps on in, has taken so much damage. Siping shove is good, but they don't have the damage. The disengage is there, but here comes a singing queen. A double straight over to Yoppa. Vitality have found the blood in this game too.
4 versus 4, the Rel layers the CC with the Talia, but it isn't enough. There's no damage. Rika has to run away, and it's another pick onto Paris. Now it's Grubs going to Vitality.Bee.
And all of a sudden, we're seeing Vitality.Bee in a massive, massive lead. Curious to see how well they're going to be able to snowball it. This time around, if they continue playing with the same confidence, the same aggression, it's going to be very, very hard for BDSA to, you know, match their pressure and to hold their footing in this game.
How exciting it is to see again that they're matching, Broxer, using your words, matching the pressure. And we talked about their willingness to try and be ready for each play, falling behind the pace, but still trying to fight. In this game, they're the ones who are leading that dynamic. And it's a completely different ball game, especially since the early game didn't look good with the Vayne neutralized in top lane.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, right? I think the big thing to me is that Paris having an uncharacteristically bad poor game on the rail. There's not CC buffers where I feel like there should be, and he's getting picked a lot, combined with the level of micro that Vitality.Bee are showing, which generally is BDSA strength. They love these early skirmishes. They're really, really good at them finding the right fights, but it's Vitality.Bee's map, and they've been winning him out.
And again, when you've got Dagless there, who in the first game was shut out in comparison to Skumon, as we look at the champs here, I wanted to bring this up because it's like, yeah, his Vi keeps getting banned. His counter-jungling or counter-ganking junglers, like the Maokai Sejuani, get banned out as well. But remember, I talked about it at the start, when he was on the main Vitality roster, he was pulling out these AP junglers before they're popular. He's like the cool guy at school that started doing it first, you know?
And I really like this game where they're picking Brand because it gives you a bit more agency in the early game. You have a stun to play with. You don't just have to full clear on repeat or maybe invade raids at the most aggro that you can be on Lilia. I like the fact that Douglas has agency. I like the fact that they're fighting these skirmishes and how well he's playing.
And now, 1 minute and 30 seconds for the Rift Herald. Second Drake, of course, just taken away for Vitality.Bee. We're seeing BDSA.
Oh, a mistake uncharacteristic of the best support I said in EMEA Masters. Chayak with a good dodge away from the seismic shove, but Paris has a couple of whiffs now, a couple of overstays that this time he's lucky not to get punished for.
Maybe he thinks he's safe there, and it's kind of a bait to bait people forward with that aftershock. He is quite tanky, it isn't worth that much. So maybe intentional there, but it did look like a bit of a slip-up to me.
And you've got to keep in mind, when you're sitting on a big stage in a final like this one, knowing that you're fighting to win the EMEA finals, but also to potentially get in the LEC next year, you all have a lot of thoughts in mind. There's so much going on inside your head.
Yeah.
And the nerves, you know, all players have them, and right now we're just going to have to see if BDSA can handle them well enough, be able to play from behind and find those winning moments.
I love this place from Vitality.Bee. Douglas might be a little bit caught though.
Could do he alter, but he's not going to find anyone. You're right, Douglas is in no man's land. Okay, he felt too much of that. No, he's kidnapped for a double kill. BDSA are given merit back into the game.
Nako gets kidnapped through the wall by the Cassante, and what looked like a great play to play towards his tier 1 up topside. Douglas, he doesn't flash over the wall to escape the engage. He could have gone out there, but the engage comes through. They find the pick onto Douglas, and it's a recovery play for BDSA.
The nerves didn't last for too long. Right as I say it, the comeback play comes in, and suddenly, if this series continues to come online, it's going to be a very, very good situation for BDSA. But here, Paris, this is what he's done so well the entire tournament. He sees one person overstepping, instantly engages, and with that, they secure a quick double kill for themselves.
And it looked like such a good area to play with. They had free hit onto the tower, but Douglas in that little pocket next to the wall felt a little bit isolated. I thought they could go for this, but Skuma.
Hang on, yeah, there's a flash engage from Standen. That's perfect. Clean as anything from Vitality. We're just playing the game of swing right now as they get some more gold back in their pocket.
Ooh, trade's coming down. Stend. He does have ultimate if they want to dive on this minion wave, but Paris is here to shadow. They need Douglas realistically, but they can get some free hits onto the tower.
Definitely a very, very different Vitality.Bee we're seeing this series. They're doing so well. They're angry, they're furious, and they're striking back hard. I'm very, very much loving seeing this more calculated aggression. This is what we've seen them do in the past. This is why they made it all the way to the final. And while there was this one slip up in the top lane, they're really showcasing to us right now why they deserve to be here.
Yeah, winning as well in the early game. With Corki and getting to Triforce is accelerated, as well as having the tier. It's double tier composition, so they're going to spike again. Nako, though, engage going to come through to Janak.
Yeah, Janax gets a slowdown as well, and with Skumond here, Nako in so much trouble, good flash away, and he's got himself the Ghost rather, poked out the final hour, trying to turn it. The classic Vayne mechanic, he can, in a 1v2, Vayne's love this feeling, dodging away yet again, Janax can't find him, and Douglas is now here. Janax re-engages, but over the wall, it happens again. Janax will die though, and it ain't a repeat. Skumond against the wall, in condemned position, flashes, but won't get a stone to the face of this Vayne. He's running for his life, and when BDSA in game 1 wanted to bring the pace, Vitality brought it forward to game 2.
They underestimate the power of the Ghost on the Vayne. Nako finds the outplay with the 1 versus 2.
Uzi Vayne has entered the building today in Munich. Incredible kiting on the Vayne. Bought so much time for his team to follow. And it looked scary for a little moment as Janax was holding Douglas away with the Cassandra, but it just didn't matter because the entire team was there to follow. Super smart play from Vitality.Bee. And now, only 20 seconds till the Drake spawns. We're seeing them base as fast as they can, shift towards the bot side. They want to be here early. They want to be ready to punish when BDSA decide to face check.
And you can see BDSA's attitude towards this dragon. They do not care. Rika's going up topside without teleport. They're playing for this tier 1 tower. Now, a good play from Vitality.Bee could be to deny the tier 1 tower if they send someone up to defend, as well as secure dragon on the other side. I think they're strong enough to do it. You can see Nako already heading top to defend.
BDSA quickly recognizing here that they're not going to be able to take control of the dragon area. I think this is their best response. Just try to control the mid wave as much as you can. Make a play on the other side.
Flash away. Nucker doesn't have Ghost, but a TP to try and get something more out of this. And you can see Sten wants a counterplay, but there's nothing there. Teleport committed regardless from Yoppa, as it's now just going to be the start from multiple sides for both objectives.
No flash on Vayne. It's going to be quite hard to play versus all this AoE CC. He doesn't have flash to get away from the Relol, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that they can see this.
Shattering Strike is there. Magnus Storm down as well. Nucker has to get out of there. The final hour will be popped onto Rika, but singing a song, Yoppa, won't be a lullaby. Instead, it's death metal right into the ears of Vitality.Bee. Turn it off, they scream, with the shutdown over to BDSA. The fight going wrong. The seismic shove going right. They get on out of there. Low health bars as Shayak gets something back and needs something back. There's more damage to come through. Genax next. There he flushes forward. Vitality off the verge of disaster. At least get something back.
A 2 for 2 in the end there. I thought that was going to be a BDSA favored play. With Nako trying to contest the Rift Herald, I'm surprised he walked forward. This is the problem I had with the Vayne in the draft. There's so much AoE that you become so flash dependent in these fights. If you don't have flash, you just get comboed.
Yeah.
And you see in this play.
Yeah, we see it right here. They know that Herald is low. They know they need to start the fight soon. But the issue for them is the Corki TP still channeling. Douglas is so far away from the rest of his team, and that's Yoppa and Nako try to buy time. Their squishy is just not enough. They're not able to kite away, partly due to an incredible Salih ult from Scuman. And here, the brand. We see the power of the 1-2 brand. So much damage, so much AoE. And the Corki is starting to scale as well. The scaling is the name of the game here for Vitality.Bee. Incredible, incredible comp. One single dragon away from getting soul as well. And now BDSA. We will have to see if they're able to play well from behind. A tough position that we rarely see them in.
Because the damage is going to come from this Zeri, right? Almost 3 items, and I know we talk about scaling for Vitality.Bee, especially with a Seraphine, an Enchanter, to buff up this composition that's going to have free will with their solo laners, especially in the mix. But Kadui has been someone over multiple EMEA Masters split we have hyped up and talked about the carry potential of this guy. If there was a chance for BDSA in this game, we have to, again, look at the old reliable AD carry, who this time is not on a supported pick like the Ash or Jhin, this time on something that does try and match that scaling.
On that Zeri, 101 EMEA Masters games, 8 EMEA Masters appearances. And he's kind of playing like he deserves the title this time. You know, he's absolutely gunning for it on this Zeri. And you know, last game as well, playing incredibly well on that Jhin.
Right now for BDSA, the tricky part is they want to buy time for Siri to get another item, get to the free item power spike, but it's so difficult with another Drake coming in not too long. We see the Baron spawning here on the map as well, of course. Worth noting that with champions like Vayne, with Brand, if Vitality.Bee get a chance to hit this, it's going to be deleted in a matter of seconds. But right now, Vitality.Bee don't have full control of the map yet, with the Vayne having the deep prior in the bot lane, and they're going to have to use that to shift up towards topside and make sure that Rika doesn't play so aggressive, pushing in the Corki.
So Nako, I think he has to be a little bit patient here. If he gets engaged on, his team is far away from the Baron, so they won't be able to rush it down in time. He's got to wait for his team to be in position, have control of that Nash first. You can see Sten shadowing Shayak, making sure he doesn't get left on by Rika.
Sten's been really good at that this game. Again, we talked about both supports and how they shadow not only junglers, but some of these on-forward plays. Sten is here, he ulties though, and he's trying to go into the fire. Paris is there to fend him off, and Vitality.Bee moving for a play themselves. They've got Yoppa there, there's healing, it's fine. Weaver's Wall, though, continues to play for BDSA. Seismic jump, flashed and into the fire, and flames! Douglas outplaying Skumond once again. This time, he's got his number.
And they find the Q flash stun into the E, does Douglas, and this is really important because Vayne doesn't have TP, right? So Nako doesn't have TP, Genex does. I think you can see Nako wants to run up topside as well.
You said it, no smite. I mean, BDSA have to walk on in and just try and win the fight, but with Brand, it goes down so quick. With TP from Genax, they're going to make sure it doesn't do so. Healing up, Yoppa in the mix of it, but he gets hit on up. He's good, but Yoppa is getting knocked on down. Douglas has a hit from the Baron pit. It's so messy as the engage from Paris sets up for BDSA, but they're still losing. Nako gets free will again, and Shayak chases them down. Vitality.Bee might be the 3rd seed, but they have finally risen up to the top in game 2.
Vitality.Bee survived the engage. They survived long enough for Nako to come and clean up after all the cooldowns were expended onto Yoppa. The Archangel shield saves him just when I thought he was going to be bursted out.
Absolute statement game for Vitality.Bee here. Skumund was 12-0 in last game, now 0-5, and Douglas re-entering his LEC form. You spoke about it earlier, Hysterics. His brand was so incredible in the past, and now he and the rest of his team are showing up absolutely massively. Now, bear in mind, Stent, he's been part of every single one of their 15 kills. You've got to continue to keep an eye on the Sally Star, because a lot of these fights, a lot of these incredible engages are from this man. And now, well, you see it right here on your screens. BDSA, they don't even dare to come in to contest this Drake because they know it's so risky. They simply just can't.
The friendship duo from Vitality.Bee, you saw it in our opening. Yoppa, it's not just a duo, they're friends, they get along well. And it's been working so well in this game too as well. And what's really exciting is the expectations from the analyst desk, from everyone watching this game, is that BDSA are going to roll over this series. Vitality have given us so much to think about here with a 6k gold lead with an Ocean Soul. Now looking for a pick. Skumon cannot sit here. Sten still engages him up. They don't care. He elongated that ulti thanks to Seraphine, but Sten underneath the turret takes no damage. Vitality.Bee take it away, and they are still getting everything they ordered.
The instant trigger pull from Yoppa there, you can see the trust in the engage, and this is exactly what we said they needed. These quirky 80 carry picks, Neela, Seraphine, they pull them out and they can just win these fights. But take a look at this fight again. Douglas with a Q flash E, instant stun, a beautiful combo.
Great synergy from the side of Vitality.Bee. You see it right here on the minimap. Nako instantly shifting towards the top side, knowing Genix is spacing and wants to TP in. And great turnaround here from Vitality.Bee. Waiting till BDSA comes in really close, making sure they have no way out. And when the turn comes, not only do they kill them, not only do they chase them all the way out, but Baron didn't even reset, so it's so easy for them to get the objective base and then get Soul before going for the push.
And again, the longer the fights go now, we talked about the scaling, but Yoppa especially, this guy who's now trying to trail through, and we look at these achievements again, you know, back in NLC, yeah, sure, back in EBL, sure, but in recent history, behind in the LFL, Game 2, he's at least making a name for himself, as today Vitality.Bee have risen to the occasion. 8k gold lead, Baron still there for another 15 seconds. Vitality.Bee looking to channel in with the TP.
Wall comes through. Gonna stop the siege a little bit there, but the Baron minions, they do still have a cannon. Not going to be a siege there. The minion waves bleed out, and they don't have any other waves in any of the lanes, so Baron siege neutralized.
Well, they'll have to determine now if they want to risk pushing again without, a Baron up wave. I think they're making a smart decision, recognizing that, the TP was a little bit too optimistic. Just recall, spend your gold, and wait for a better opportunity. Baron is up in 3 minutes from now.
Yep.
So you just want to push out, get full control of the top side jungle, and make sure that there's absolutely no way BDSA catches you off guard and finds a pick. Because ultimately, they cannot win team fights anymore.
Yep.
They have to surprise Vitality.Bee, or this game is over.
Yeah, I think we're going back now to the Rel, walking into the Rel, finding that combo with the Tilly and trying for the one-shot. The problem is the shield's coming now through for Yoppa. You have 3 items onto Kadui, so you can do a lot of work in terms of DPS.
They got mid-pro as well. Look at where BDSA are. That's a free turret. Vitality.Bee playing the map better. And we did talk about this where early game wasn't their strength, but I feel like Vitality.Bee, with a lot of these scaling comps, know how to play the mid-game. Here, the proof is in the pudding again as Sten gets knocked on back. He has the ulti, so we're out of the cow shed into the paddock, but Vitality.Bee will still heal this up. Yoppa with Ocean Soul. Let's not forget this is a dirty combo.
Yeah, you can see the Executioner's calling already picked up to counter that.
That's Warmoxed.
But look at the poke as well coming in from the Corki. Every single time they try to siege, they just throw out rockets, and so much damage on the other side, forcing recalls. Still, not going to be able to break open the tier 3s just yet.
Vegetarians must be so happy. We've got a Warmogs on the cow. He's got Ocean Soul and a Seraphine. We're not eating meat today if we're BDSA. In Game 2, it is unkillable, undeniable, and really, again, Sten's performance has matched Paris's Game 1. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's quickly becoming, I feel like, such a series about the support and junglers here. You've completely flipped the performances in terms of jungle, in terms of early micro, scoreline, absolutely everything. And the same for the other way around. It feels like Sten is doing what Paris did last game, shattering the side lanes and playing these team fights so damn well.
There's really big level differences right now for the side of Vitality.Bee as well. We can see the damage from this Corki, which just hit level 16.
Yep.
He will be very difficult to stop. But again, Paris and Stent, the two engagers for that team, trying to find an opening here.
Paris is isolated as well, but Douglas going gold in the nick of time, gets Shaik some damage on Genax. He has to flash away, but look at what's happening on the front of the fight. Yoppa about to take Paris down as Douglas gets the remaining kill. Vitality's team fighting has been so redeeming in game 2. They shout, they scream, and the bee gets to fly and spread its wings finally in the series.
Douglas with the insane stopwatch and Vitality.Bee with the commanding victory over BDSA. It's a complete mirror matchup.
And funnily enough, BDSA, 4 members died with flash available. They were so caught off guard, they got completely steamrolled from Vitality.Bee's aggression. And they made some fantastic improvements coming into this game.
And underdogs beat down. Vitality stood up on the stage for game 2. Some nice adjustments, but it wasn't just in the draft, it was in the game. We got a series for the EMEA Masters Finals, and Vitality have shown up to play.
And the big thing there, I feel like, was the level of micro and just the insane skirmishing in the early game. They never let up afterwards. Douglas having an insane performance in these fights.
Oh yeah.
I love the adaptations from them, not only in terms of draft, but in terms of their approach coming into this game. It felt like a fully renewed, entirely different team than what we saw in game 1. And they played so smart. They were able to just, you saw it time and time again, the aggression, the confidence. BDSA weren't ready, and now they're gonna have to find a solution because they had big problems here.
Completely different games with a series on the line. EMEA Masters Finals goes to game 3 right after this break to start getting some real answers.
Hey, Law.
Yeah?
I need a bit of help with styling since I'm new here, and I was wondering if I could show you a couple of outfits.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll be right back. I'm a porro snack. Get it?
I don't know, man. No, not really.
I don't know, Law. It's hopeless.
No, it's gonna be fine. Here, let's have a break.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Yes, that's the one. Perfect.
Yeah? LEC, here we come.